question and interact with the panelists and our moderators through the app. I would now like to invite our other keynote speaker on stage, Mr. Bhoj Raj Pokharel, former Chief Election Commissioner, Nepal. Mr. Bhoj Raj Pokharel played a crucial role in integrating the Maoist rebels into democratic electoral processes and was one of the key architects of making Nepal's elected bodies more inclusive and representative. He has also served as the UN Secretary General's high-level panel to Bangladesh during the 2008 elections and Southern Sudan's referenda process. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome with a big round of applause Mr. Bhoj Raj Pokharel.
Namaste. I didn't see Mr. Kailash Shirohia, but he has gone to see off to Prime Minister. Mr. Shirohia, Right Honorable Prime Minister, he has already left the place. Professor Shivashankar Menon, Excellencies, sisters and brothers. Let me start by thanking Kantipur Publications for giving me an opportunity to share some of my thoughts in this conclave. The planned sessions for today and tomorrow are, I see, very much important in terms of national, regional, and the international perspective. Many of the issues that I am going to touch upon are related to several thematic discussions for today and tomorrow. I stand here to share some of my experiences, especially in democratic governance and elections, and I will be much more focusing on the national level. I would like to begin with a personal story. I was born and raised in a far east remote village. I had to walk 1 hour uphill for an hour to reach my school. I used to carry from home a straw mat to sit on and a wooden plank to write and study under the open sky. We used to write on the clay-coated wooden plank with twigs from the nearby trees. Now, my 5-year-old grandson, who lives thousands of kilometers away, demonstrates his assignment that he completed by giving verbal commands to the computers without using the keyboards. He even teaches me how to use the latest gadgets and sometimes pulls my leg for not knowing how to use them. This is just an example of the astonishing development and adoption of technology across the globe. Mobile phones, internet. Actually, the light is so much opposite and anyway, mobile phones, internet, and social media have become so ubiquitous that it is beyond belief to someone like me who was born in a remote village after the Second World War. The pace of advancement in technology has made the world smaller. It has practically dissolved the borders between the countries. The world today is connected in a true sense. Now, many issues are not limited to one country or a region. The impact of an incident in one corner of the globe can be felt throughout the world in a moment. Technology has made life comfortable and doing tasks easier. It has made goods and services easily available to a wider population, including those in remote parts of the world. And those goods and services are relatively cheap, thus affordable to the masses. However, misuse of technology poses serious risks and challenges to society. How can everyone take fair advantage of the opportunities provided by technology? How can we humanize technology? How to deal with the misuse of technology in criminal and terrorist activities, misinformation, cyber war, and similar harmful activities. It has now become imperative for us to prepare ourselves for these challenges, both at national and international level. Furthermore, technological advances and globalization sometimes have unintended consequences. The ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has shown how vulnerable the world is, how a disease can spread from one corner of the world to the rest of the world, and how the incident or accident in one corner of the world can disrupt the entire global supply mechanism. Within this global context, I would like to shift to my talk closer to our home. Our country, Nepal, has a unique identity in the world due to its geographic and climatic variations, abundant natural resources, rich biodiversity, ethnicity, and culture. But unfortunately, we cannot say with any conviction that Nepal and Nepalese are prosperous and have a bright future ahead. I am sorry to say it. I would like to present a few examples here. One, Nepal has almost unlimited water resources, which Professor Menon also indicated, that which can be used to meet different needs within and outside the country, in particular, drinking water, food security, and clean, sustainable electricity. By harnessing our hydropower, we can not only fulfill our energy needs, but we can also support the needs of other countries in the region. But our water is flowing and is going to waste while we are busy chanting pseudo-nationalistic slogans and are locked in indecision either due to political or personal interest, putting the nation at a loss. Two, as I mentioned earlier, and which is common knowledge that all Nepalese, our country is bestowed with rich biodiversity, spectacular scenic landscapes, and ancient cultures. The country has huge potential in many dimensions in tourism, ranging from mountaineering, hiking, pilgrimage, research, and medical tourism. Have we successfully harnessed these possibilities to their fullest extent in a sustainable manner? That's the question. We lie between two of the rapidly expanding major markets in the world, China and India. Until yesterday, we used to say that our country is an unfortunate yam stuck between two massive boulders and considered it as our limitations. But now, it is like a gold mine of possibilities. Strategic use of this geographic advantage has great potential for the development of Nepal, Nepalese, and the whole region. Four, currently 75% of our population is under 40 years of age. This is a good sign for the country's healthy future. However, we know that a large number of working-age youth aim to migrate to foreign countries for employment due to the lack of opportunities in the country. They migrate for employment of all kinds, ranging from manual labor to high-tech and intellectual fields such as medical, engineering, and so and so. Current estimates put youth migration at more than 500,000 annually. They believe that due to prevailing governance, political and economic conditions, there is no future in this country, and they are thus migrating in mass for their future. This is a sad example of brain and muscle drain. These are just a few examples of the potentials as well as the current challenges of the country. Why we could not utilize our natural and man-made resources for the improvement of the lives of our population? Are our aspirations for a bright future too ambitious or unrealistic? I am sure all agree that is not the case. In the last 3 decades, the country has made a big leap in physical terms. There is no doubt about the per capita income has increased, the standard of living of common citizens has risen, indexes related to education, health have been increasing at decent and encouraging rates. However, despite all these potentials and the achievements, the general feeling among the population is that of despair, frustration, lament of bleak future for their children, and overall angers toward the way the country is being governed. In my humble opinion, it all boils down to the issue of global politics, politics and good governance. Lack of those elements restrict the pathway to development. I will try to elaborate on this in a minute. I firmly believe that a sound political system with long-term vision about the development of the country and a solid framework of governance, rule of law, functioning institutions are the prerequisites for multi-dimensional and inclusive development of any country. By multi-dimensional, I mean sustainable development that balances economic, environmental, social, and cultural aspects. Shortly after the restoration of democracy in the late 80s, we were caught in a cycle of constant political instability. Parliaments were dissolved many times in a short period of time. We experienced the decade-long armed conflict, the regressive authoritarian role, then decisive people's movement of 2006 that led to the Republic. We created a constitution written by the people for themselves with the promise of not allowing the repetition of all the shortcomings experienced by the previous government. We also made provisions in the constitution to prevent the reoccurrence of such instabilities. We are confident that with a constitution written by the people for the people with sound democratic values in it, peace and political stability would prevail in the country and we would embark on the journey of prosperity. We believe that we would not have to revert to the street agitations for another big political change as we had witnessed almost every decade. The question comes, where and how did we go wrong, even after having a solid moral constitution and largely fair election? Democracy thrives in efficiency, capacity, effectiveness, and credibility and competence of the main pillars of democracy, including the parliament, judiciary, constitutional bodies, political parties, civil societies, and the media. Only through their strong role in positive and effective check and balance can democracy flourish. However, knowingly or unknowingly, we can and paralyze these institutions. Many countries around the world have shown that where there is a strong system, institution, process, methods established, and the people have faith in them, it can endure occasional shocks to their political systems. One of the essential pillars of the democracy is periodic and fair election. Since the transformative change of the mid-80s in the political landscape, we have successfully conducted several elections of different level of government in this country. We should be proud about the democratic process as well as the practice of nonviolent transfer of power. This is something that is not commonly seen in many countries with similar situations as ours. But election alone is not sufficient to guarantee democracy. In the past 3 decades, extreme politicization and uncontrolled party interference have been a greater misfortune for this country. We should determine the limits of party control over the state or the government. The de facto supremacy of political parties was introduced as a tool for managing conflict. Continuity of this transitional problem-solving approach, a so-called Sarvadaliya Sahamati or all-party agreement approach, as the governing model is weakening formal institutions. People's basic desire have been undermined by the culture of rule of compromises, where the interest of 2 or more competing political parties come together with little concern for the interest of the people. When the public trusts the governance system and those who run them, they feel assured of their future and that of their children. It is obviously why youths are leaving the country in droves. In that respect, what should the country focus on to move forward? In my opinion, the following 5 elements should be our key priorities. First, hope. It should be about how to regenerate hope and instill faith in the public that the country, system, and leadership would address their problems and concerns. Second, trust. Citizens' trust in established institutions, system, and processes is another condition for democratic governance. Third, democratic culture. A culture of encouraging and constructive criticism and being responsive to such criticism with full sincerity. Intellectual discourses on systematic deformities and informing the public about their remedies will strengthen democracy. Fourth, integrity. This is the core value of governance. It generates trust and hope in the citizens, and lack of it creates corruption, despair, and destruction. Impunity has become the constant feature of the state. Lack of credibility is perhaps the key challenge we are facing today. There is a huge gap between what we say and what we do. There is no consistency in our words and behaviors. Let us be consistent in our words and actions. Let us translate our commitments into actions. Fifth, strong institutions. Let us focus our strength in building institutions that are vital for a functional democracy in the true sense. Recently, Boris Johnson stepped down as the UK Prime Minister because he was found crossing the limits set by his own administration to contain COVID-19. But in Nepal, those who organized large gatherings flouting COVID rules were instead feted. When are you going to raise these questions of accountability and morality? Dozens of heads of states or government that I have worked with have engaged themselves from politics once they were out of power. They say one should not interfere after one is out of power. In our case, we see trend of once a leader, always a leader. I think this is another reason why our politics is going downhill. Our experience shows that we have many politicians, but hardly any visionary leader. who could rise above their personal or party interest or above the self. There is one saying, a politician is only concerned about the next election, a leader about the next generation. We are looking for that leader. It is true that elections have faced serious credibility questions globally. We are not its exceptions. As a student of election, I have a few dreams which I think are very important and are not difficult to achieve if we are sincere. My dreams include having a fixed election date ensured by law. Party candidates are selected on primary basis. Voters cast their vote with an informed choice without any type of intimidation or personal gains. No need for bullets to secure the ballots. Election management is fully decentralized and election is less costly. Voters should be allowed to vote from any corner of the world with appropriate technology. I wish I could see them in my lifetime. Despite the grim pictures of the country I painted above, we see light at the end of the tunnel. A group of vibrant youths had jumped into the political process and public affairs to detoxify the systemic mess from within. Our democratic future depends on how we provide space for this group of young people in our political processes. As I said earlier, 3/4 of Nepal's current population is under 40 years of age. In contrast, we observe that only a few from this generation are in the decision-making levels in political parties and the government. Hopefully, those in power will pay urgent attention not to just incorporate the priorities of the younger generation, but also to bring them in decision-making positions as quickly as possible. They should have a decisive voice in their own destiny. It is my firm belief that to perform these tasks that make people experience rule of law, we don't have to search for additional resources and additional resources. We don't need to call to any donors. The resources and capacity that we possess are sufficient for it. The only thing that we need is the commitment of the leadership. At this hour, when we are close to the new round of elections, everybody should commit to participate in the elections by voting for qualified leaders, hopefully of the younger generation, with conviction, those who promise not to waste the next 5 years the way we have been doing business in the past. Let us make our target that is to generate hope, hope, and hope. In this age of globalization and connectivity, we have reached a state of world beyond borders. We have many resources and potentials to improve our country, its governance, and the lives of current and future generations. With proper leadership, good governance, and solemn commitment and true patriotism among the political leaders, bureaucrats, intellectuals, media, and the general public, we can achieve progress which may seem beyond expectations. Let us strive for that. I wish the organizers success in addressing the issues on the table. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.